Welcome everyone. Good morning. Nice sunny day for a change. I'm Councillor Steve Pitt, Leader of the Council and also Cabinet Member for Culture, Leisure and Economic Development. This meeting is being webcast to allow the public to attend remotely if they so wish. Please be advised that the public seating area is not in view of the camera used to webcast this meeting. For housekeeping, if the continuous fire alarm sounds, please evacuate the room and public gallery by the stairwells. Do not attempt to use the lifts. Please assemble at the turning circle at the end of King Henry Street, past the University's Park building, which you'll note is not by Queen Victoria's statue as usual because there's a rather large ice rink being built there. In order to comply with the Guildhall Trust Fire Marshal regulations, anyone who's signed in at the Guildhall reception desk should sign out when leaving the building at the end of today's meeting. I'd like to draw everyone's attention to the fact that this meeting will be live streamed. Everyone speaking will be on camera. Members of the press and public are also permitted to record the meeting on the understanding it neither disrupts the meeting nor records those stating explicitly that they do not wish to be recorded. Please can everyone use the microphones and remember to switch them off when you're finished. They will now do some introductions, starting with Lisa.
Lisa Gallagher from Democratic Services.
Claire Liddell from Portsmouth Library and Archives Service.
Ross.
Ross Fairbrother, General Manager of the D-Day Story.
Jane Singh, Tourism and Marketing Manager.
David Morman, Strategic Development Manager for Sports and Leisure.
Claire Looney, Commissioning and Partnership Manager, Culture, Leisure and Economic Development.
Claire Watkins, Business Manager, Culture and Leisure.
Dave Percival, Library and Archives Service Manager.
Catherine Berland, Volunteer Future Project Officer.
Jacqueline Garrard, Learning and Outreach Officer for Portsmouth Libraries and Archives Service.
It's Library and Archives Service.
Becky Alexander from the Economic Development Team.
Jane Lemaire, Head of Economic Development and Skills.
Councillor Russell Simpson of Hillsey Ward.
Good morning, Chair. John Smith, Eastern Craneswater Ward.
Okay, thank you. We don't have any apologies for absence. It may be therefore that Mary may join us late. I'll introduce her if she arrives. Members in declarations of interest? No. Okay. In which case we move on to item 3, which is the Seafront Events and Charges 2024-2025, and I assume that's Claire Watkins reporting.
Thank you, Leader. Thank you, Portfolio Holder. So I'm going to start off the report and then hand over to my colleague Claire Looney. So the report covers 3 areas, and the first area is our poster sites, and for all 3 areas of the report we're proposing an annual uplift of inflation. So you'll see from the report that the post advertising space has supported various public health and sustainable travel initiatives this year. And in particular, we would highlight the You Are Not Alone campaign that's been very popular, having run twice, and we've had feedback from members of the public that that's been a particular encouragement, that campaign. The posters have also supported various cultural programmes throughout the year, and currently around the city you'll see the promotion of the Portsmouth Museum's Victorian Christmas activity programme. And we've also been working with our colleagues in the marketing team and regeneration to promote our service through the attendance at a recent B2B city event. And I'm going to hand over to Claire Looney.
So as members will be aware, we have 3 key beach hut areas that we support at Lumpsfort, Eastney, and I can't remember the name, St George's Road, sorry, momentary aberration. In essence, we're suggesting that the increase in beach huts is an annual inflationary increase only this year. We did some changes to the structure of how that operated 2 years ago, and those changes have worked successfully, and we just want to continue with those. The works programme for winter repairs will be commencing once the weather gives us an opportunity for 2 sunny consecutive days as opposed to torrential rain in between. The weekly beach huts remain very popular, although there was a slight downturn on their usage for this summer. We think this is due to the weather more than anything. As you'll remember, the July wasn't particularly good, but they still remain popular for those residents who are on the waiting lists. We have also continued with the clarity on the land hire charges. The categories will remain the same for next year. The implementation of the reduced hire charge for the set-up and de-rig days has been appreciated by those organisations that need them and enables event organisers to set up their events so they can be safely delivered and effectively delivered over those days. We had introduced the new price differential last year between 5,999 attendees, and that's worked well. It is an area of growth for us. We think that area of market is an opportunity for development. However, we are aware of the pressures on the land on the seafront over the next few years because of the coastal defence works, so it's not likely that we'll have any growth in that area until after those works are being completed in specific areas. We've obviously also included the publication of the charges for the use of the Guildhall Square and again the use of the Round Tower, and in all instances on our side we're looking for a CPI uplift only and no further increases this year. Thank you.
Thank you, Claire. Members, any questions or comments? No?
The only one from me was
Yep.
just a couple from me was just that I think the use of the weekly beat touch is really, really good, and I think anything to widen the audience on that is good. I think I said that at the prelims meeting, and the aspiring artists on point 3.14. Freshening the mix as well in Old Portsmouth. I think the work that's going on there really, really good.
Thank you very much. In that case, the fees and charges are approved in accordance with the attached schedule at Appendix A. Thank you very much indeed. And officers, don't feel you need to stay for the rest of the meeting if you are finished with reporting. Item 4 is the market strategy. And is that, who's presenting, Becky or Jane? Becky.
So the market strategy presented an action plan for 5 years and set out the aspirations for the PCC run markets. Sorry, bear with me.
Minor technical problems. No, we don't have that. Just go with it.
Okay. Basically sets out that focus of the strategy is on Portsmouth City Centre and Cosham Market, but it also takes into consideration Southsea and the potential for different market sites. Sets out slightly different staffing structure and plans for development and opportunities for additional sites and different markets.
Okay, thank you very much. Members, any questions? John?
Sorry, just one from me. Just can you expand on the bit about the, it's recognised that we're missing out on opportunities to increase the diversity.
So in terms of the offer of both Cosham and City Centre, we recognise that we've got a number of regular traders that have been there a long time. There is definitely scope to add additional different traders whilst recognising that we don't want to damage the offer that is there already. We're doing a trial market the first weekend in December in the city centre as part of Small Business Saturday, where we've invited really small businesses who are maybe working from home or aren't trading. We've got 15 applicants for that, so that's a trial in the hope that they will either sign on as casuals, so not necessarily signing up for 3 days every week, and just give them a real experience on the market whilst also diversifying the offer there in the city centre. We are conscious that it's easy to add markets and traders into Southsea. What we want to do is focus that more in Cosham and city centre.
Thank you, Chair. I mean, the economy is very difficult, isn't it? So what work's going on is really good. Thank you.
Yeah, any opportunity for people to be able to get out and trade is really crucial. And we saw with the We Create market that Portsmouth Creates ran during COVID that there's a lot of people out there who haven't necessarily dipped a toe in the water of direct retail yet, and encouraging them to do so is how we eventually see independents end up on high streets, which is what we all want. So it's very welcome. Russell, anything from you?
Just one, really. I think because when we talk about the Portsmouth City Centre market, I mean, if we go back long enough, Charlotte Street used to have, it was its own identity. It had its own identity in itself, and I think people always reminisce on that and how do we bring that back. And I wonder what you know, in some ways what we could do more from a commercial road point of view, because I mean it's very difficult because you had the separation between the Charlotte Street and then the High Street, if that makes sense, and it was like a V, and it was very separate. But I mean, what are we looking at to maybe encourage, you know, because I think, doesn't it stop at a certain point? I think it's to the nationwide, and then no one could put any more stores up. I mean, how are we looking to expanding that?
Okay,
So just for clarity, you want to know what's happening to the footprint of it, rather?
Yes, yes,
okay.
yeah.
So there is a project that's due to be delivered January, February, March 2024, which is the Future High Streets public realm piece. Once that project is delivered, sorry, excuse me, part of the strategy says that we will look at the space and how we use it. Sorry. So we've got an opportunity to look at the entire space and see what we can add and how much space we've got.
The other reason I mention it is because it's not just about variety, but it's also about competition. I mean, when, you know, it used to be there was quite a lot of fruit and vegetable stores, and then, you know, it used to be quite price competitive, but also then people could afford certain things from different stores. You know, I think that's something that I'm always, from residents, it's like, you know, you've just got one that sells the fruit and veg, and it's quite limited.
You happy for me to come in? We do obviously spend quite a lot of time trying to engage different market traders. Our longest standing market stall closed quite recently. We do have another market stall that comes on, but not with the same level of routine. I had quite a long chat with him about why he'd chosen to have his retirement now, and sadly, because working on a market stall and competing with the supermarkets is an impossible task, and he was, as I think he described it to me, managing to bring home less than minimum wage himself, so it seemed like the right time to retire. And we are seeing that with some of our market stalls, and I think, you know, it's really important to recognise some of the good things, and we look at a lot of the learning across Future High Streets. You know, we're doing various work across the country to try and look at best practice and where that's developed. But unfortunately, the high street is changing, and it's about us facilitating and providing really positive environments for different ways to move forward. I'd love to see vibrant fruit and veg markets. You know, I'm with you. I remember walking up and down Charlotte Street with my granddad. That's where we went every week. But the reality is that that isn't a viable option for a lot of our businesses now. And therefore, we're looking at what we can do differently and how we can encourage new and different feels to that market. And we're getting some positive change, but we have to respond to the businesses that want to come in and provide us positive opportunities. So a lot of it's also looking to make sure our rates are competitive, that we're offering good deals, that we're not tying people into things, to give them as much flexibility to support that startup. And obviously we wrap our own business support around those as well, to do startup and sort of acceleration, whether that's into a retail space or into a market trade. But it is very much about responding to the market, which is different than it used to be, sadly.
Yeah, I suppose it's quite tricky in some ways. Like you rarely get like a burger van outside Burger King because it's just not going to be viable with the competition. And I think in some ways when we lost Charlotte Street, because a lot of the fruit and veg is near, you know, obviously the Tesco's and Marks and Spencer's for a while, it kind of took away from that natural. It took away the people, as you say, people would go down the high street and go there, whereas, as I say, when you're at Charlotte Street. So I think placement's really important. I think that's kind of the point, really, of having its own individual strengths. Sometimes it's incredibly tricky, that placement, isn't it? Especially down Commercial Road.
Placement absolutely is, but if we look at other markets, you see the withdrawal of a particular fruit and veg, which is something we probably all think about when we think about markets. But the reality is that they are becoming less vibrant within the market environments, and it is about different traders. So we do our best to encourage, particularly targeting areas like fruit and veg. We've been very aware that we're losing the regularity of traders, but what we're seeing locally in other markets is that they're not existing. So it's not that we're not just getting them in Portsmouth, we're not seeing that kind of trader generally across other markets, even when they're not placed near Tesco's. And you're quite right, our market stalls would all be near Tesco's, but then our market stalls used to thrive near Tesco's, and sadly now they don't always for some of those goods.
Okay,
Thank you.
Thanks. We've been joined by another member, so I'll let Mary introduce herself.
Sorry to be late. Mary Valley, Cusham and Mummering had a puncture.
Oh dear. Well, we're glad you made it, so welcome to Mary. Did you have any comments on this particular report, Mary, that you wanted to add in? It's the market strategy that we're on at the moment. No. You're okay?
Nothing from me.
I think this is a strategy that we did need to do, and we needed to get an update on, and a piece of work that's important going forward. I mean, my great-grandparents started with a barrow on Charlotte Street Market, so I do know it fairly well, and I made a point of going and walking it last week. I actually thought it was looking pretty good, and it was fairly busy, but it's quite frustrating sometimes when you look on social media and people want to turn markets and high streets into theme parks, homages to the past that they are not and they will never will be, and what they are is ever evolving, and it's important that we play a role in helping them to evolve to the next stages, because my grandparents didn't always have a barrow on Charlotte Street Market. They then opened a shop on Edinburgh Road, and these things change over time. We all want to see more independence back, and one of the ways that we can do that and get them into retail premises and establish with a viable model is for them to develop trade through a market. This piece of work is really important, and it will be part of our overall strategy to drive more footfall back into Commercial Road. So thank you very much indeed. The recommendations, the new market strategy and associated 5-year action plan is adopted to provide focus for current activities, and that is accepted. Thank you very much. Did you want to say something else?
Thank you.
Okay, that's fine. Thanks, Becky. Cheers. Next one is item 5, and that's the Economic Development and Regeneration Strategy Annual Review, which is quite a mouthful. Jane Lemaire.
But it is only an information report, so hopefully less stressful for everyone. And being delivered in the environment where we know that although the Economic Development and Regeneration Strategy was launched in 2019, we've clearly faced some very different economic environment since then, and therefore we will go into a refresh, and we are calling it a refresh rather than a review of the strategy next year, to target different areas that have more importance now, and to perhaps reflect some of the escalation that we saw, perhaps particularly around the high street through COVID, and now that we see in the current sort of economic climate. The strategy covers 5 key themes, which include strengthening the Portsmouth brand, becoming a destination city for ideas and innovation, putting people at the heart of regeneration, infrastructure and places, and creating and thriving competitive business environments. As we have done a full report, apologies, the tracking sheet isn't possible to attach to this, which anyone that had the misfortune of reading the original issue will know that it added about another 200 pages, but I'm happy to share that and go through with anyone if you want to look at how we have moved against the individual targets. What we have seen is some significant progress, and that will include work around the future high streets, both in our city centre, and we are seeing city buildings moving forward to becoming a meanwhile use enterprise centre. We've seen the planning on the north of Commercial Road around the Sainsbury's site go through last month, and the future high streets purchase of Fratton. Both of those future high streets projects having been secured in December 2020, but taking this long to actually procure items, because as we know, the reality is, whilst we recognise the need to develop areas like our high streets, what we do find very difficult is the actual procurement of business, because we do have a very solid hold by a lot of investment businesses across the city. So that has been slightly more difficult, but it's great to see those projects moving forward. Within the current strategy, we see very little reference to high streets, and part of our refresh will be to look at that, as we recognise, one, the very different use of high streets as we move forward, but also the change in the way small businesses move forward and access business support, and how we can do things slightly differently. The market strategy is a key part of what we're doing, and also maximising a lot of the existing work that's going on across the council, including things like our sister city arrangements. And I know that colleagues will be aware of the work within both the the work with Halifax as our newest sister city, which is very focused on the economic development side, but also work with our more traditional sister city arrangements, including Dewsburg. We've obviously reported within it the quite significant updates around our skills partnership, and what we see is a lot of those targets that were originally set in 2019 are being achieved or are shifting, and again that will be part of the refresh to make sure that we continue to be demanding of the work that we're doing and to be able to track and show real progress against the economic development targets that we have.
Thanks, Jane. Just for members, a reminder that when this strategy was developed, it wasn't a council strategy. We don't own it. We adopted it, but it was done citywide with consultation with all sorts of partners and focus groups, a lot of which I interacted at the time. So it's important that we do respect that collective input, because that's what makes it meaningful as a document. Members, any questions or comments? Mary, anything?
This is just a request. Can we have people's names aside job titles? I'd like to put some names to faces and know who you are. I'd also ask Stephanie, please, 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 don't use grey, because I'm dyslexic and I can't read your report. It needs to be Arial and not grey. Is that all right? Thanks. But otherwise, really good. I mean, really good. It's impressive stuff. I think all the stuff that you're doing in London is phenomenal as well. All the branding, I mean, that's probably the last report it was in, but yeah, good stuff. Thank you.
Okay, John.
I've spoken to Jane and the team, and they're doing a great job on this. I think the refresh is really good. I like the focus on the high street, so keep that up. It's great. Thank you.
Thanks. Russell?
Yes, this is a report that desperately needed reviewing after COVID changed the dynamic of a lot of it. And hopefully we will dig deep on some of these subjects also to add to make this even stronger in delivering and helping high streets to be better.
Thank you, members. Jane, did you?
I just wanted to comment, especially with Jane in the room, that whilst I'm happy to take credit for all the branding work we do in London, I would recognise that all of this work is cross-council, and it does come down to the visitor work that Jane does in terms of that branding. But it is an important part, and we don't separate the visitor economy from our general economic development work.
And we will, of course, be giving Jane an opportunity to update us very shortly. Okay, thanks very much indeed. The next item on the agenda today is the Library Outreach Team update. Is that you, Claire?
That's right, yes. Morning, everyone. So this is an information-only report to explain the role of the Library and Archives Services Learning and Development Team and update the portfolio holder on how the team's work feeds into the library's connected universal offers and the Portsmouth City Council corporate plan. So we've talked in the report about why there's a learning and engagement team in libraries. It's essential to service development. Without the work the team does, the Library and Archive Service cannot identify potential users, build relationships with service providers in the city, discover why people stop using libraries and what the barriers to usage might be. They coordinate a diverse range of events that support the day-to-day frontline activities and deliver externally funded projects. There is also responsibility for libraries and archives to do this work to ensure they remain relevant and accessible to residents and visitors to Portsmouth. There is also a statutory duty to ensure the service meets equalities law and meets the needs of people with protected characteristics. So shortly we have a short film to show you about the team's work, but I'll just introduce you to the team. We have our Volunteer Futures Project Officer here, Catherine Burland. Catherine is on a 2-year Arts Council England funded post to manage volunteering in culture and regulatory service, and her remit is to extend volunteering to groups who may not normally have the opportunity to volunteer and to ensure a citywide approach to volunteering. We have our Vision Impairment Officer, Julie Duffy, just in the corner there. Julie works to support people with print and vision impairment across the city through one-to-one support, classes, groups and workshops, and she does a great deal of work supporting other council services. And we have our two learning and outreach officers here, Patricia Garrett and Jacqueline Garrard. They work out in the community, delivering books to housebound people. They support volunteers. They visit schools, nurseries and groups. They arrange and deliver workshops, outreach projects and events, and they also both have an important role in leading children's services in libraries. So they manage and deliver the Summer Reading Challenge each year, and manage and select children's stock, and manage the Book Start programme. So shall we start the film?
It puts you in touch with the world, you know, books. I mean, you could easily, well, become a hermit, I suppose, but the books, you relate to them. Bits in books, you relate to it. That's what I think it does for me. And I find myself identifying with some of the people in the books, you know. I picture Cosham Library in my mind a lot, you know, because I'm so used to it.
My role is basically to support people who are losing their sight, and I do that with emotional support, technology, and non-technical equipment, things like talking clocks and watches. I do a bit of braille translations for if people have got documents that they want, like a new microwave manual or something of that nature. I think the main things are the support groups, which meet on the Wednesday and the Thursday morning in the library. The library's got an offer where you can download books either as e-books or as audiobooks.
Well, we have wellbeing zones in all of our libraries in Portsmouth. I devised them with funding from Macmillan Cancer Support. Central Library is the biggest, and it contains the Macmillan Cancer Information and Support Pod, and also leaflets on all the health services in the city. Our wellbeing zones contain all our books on health and medicine, our books on mental health and wellbeing, our books on healthy eating, diet and exercise, and also childcare and child development. So by putting the books in easily classified areas with good signage, then it's easier for people to find books on conditions they or their loved ones might be experiencing.
Well, I've been volunteering for 13 years. There's the book group, which is once a month, where basically it's reading the synopsis of audio books. Beyond that, I also do recording for a quarterly magazine called Flagship.
So yeah, I went to the U Project and I said that I'm good with computers, and they suggested CAT, and I come in and try it. It's given me self-worth, it's given me structure, it's given me something to look forward to once a week. If you're looking to, you know, get your foot in the door somewhere, or just to get yourself out of the house and do something that you feel is worthwhile, then yeah, definitely, it's benefited me a lot.
Well, today is the Summer Reading Challenge Winners event, and we have it every year at Selsey Castle to help celebrate the achievement of all the children that finish the challenge of reading up to 6 books over the summer holidays.
It's a fun, free activity. Children go to their local library over the summer holidays, and they decide how many books they'd like to read, and they read them, and for each book they read they get rewarded with stickers and other incentives, and then at the end of the challenge they get a certificate and medal.
We like to make it a really, really good event because reading 6 books is hard work and it's a fantastic achievement, so we try to make sure the children feel as though reading is fun and not just something you have to do for school.
We have many members from all walks of life, all ages, all communities. We come together, we talk, we chat, we read, we have tea and coffee, we support each other, so it's a wonderful place to be.
It's a friends reading group and that is what we are. So it's not just about reading, but reading, reading the fun way.
We've had really serious talks, we've had parties for the coronation, and it's just a wealth of information that gets passed on. Just go, it's fun, it's a way to meet people and to gain knowledge that you possibly didn't have before.
And I should have said at the beginning that film was made by Enable Ability. Thank you.
Anything else you were going to add, Claire? Or no?
I think that
Okay.
explained the team's
Yeah.
work.
I
Yeah.
just don't want to cut you off. That's
all right.
okay. Members, any questions? Mary?
I thought that film was really good. Who's going to see it?
So we've got plans to share it on our social media and on the big screen as well, and then we'll talk to other groups about how we can share it.
John?
Chair, I'm not surprised we've got such a good library service. I mean, as I said in the prelims, we were opening libraries when others were closing them, and you've taken that work forward. I think it's great to see also the opportunity to opening up for volunteering as well, that people who maybe wouldn't have got involved in it can get involved in it. I think that's a really good thing. Thanks. Thank you.
Just to say that, echo what you said really, I met with David and Grant up in Cosham. Really impressive, really impressive. Really impressive work. I just think it's brilliant what you're doing.
Russell?
Yeah, it's really impressive, and I think residents and local people realise how important libraries are. And I think we are lucky as a city to have quite a lot, but at the same time, there are definitely some areas that there are gaps with libraries and difficult to get to. I'm talking very much about, so we've got one in North End, but then there's a huge gap between North End all the way up to Cosham. But I think overall, what we do with the libraries we have, we lead by example, and hopefully that will lead for more support to, as I say, to the expanding of the mobile library, which I think is really good. I'd love to have more than one, especially if different ones could offer different access for disabilities, ages, etc., etc. So yeah, it's really great work and a really lovely video to match.
Thanks, members. It is important to note that in the current climate, councils all over the country are shutting libraries. They're certainly not developing new ones. As John referenced, we did, and we've done a refurbishment of Cosham fairly recently. There's some improvements going on at North End Library that's been funded by the ward members up there as well. And clinging on to these services in the financial position that we're in is something that we are prioritising. But if we look at the news this week, Hampshire are slashing their library service this year, and lots of other councils are as well. So it's important that we do keep a focus on the work that we do in our libraries, because they benefit the community so widely, and touch all sorts of groups that other things don't. So thanks very much to the team. Nice to see you all here in person today, and thanks very much for the presentation. Okay. Item 7 on the agenda is the Youth Engagement Project delivered by D-Day Story. Ross, over to you.
Thank you very much. So this is an information-only report on the Youth Engagement Project, which has been running for the past year or so at the D-Day Story, and has recently completed. So the museum received funding from the Dulverton Trust and from Artswork to deliver a project supporting youth social action across the city. So we recruited a youth engagement officer who proposed working with the PYC youth centres across the city. And the advantage of that was that we were able to work with young people from all areas across the city, rather than just being able to focus on one geographical part of Portsmouth. So the overview of the project, what is that it involved working with local artists to deliver creative workshops for young people, which was aimed at inspiring their creativity, and that was coupled with visits to the museum out of hours to talk about D-Day and the collections. And the idea behind that was to not only give them an opportunity to try out the workshops, but also to engage them in conversations about things that were important to them today, and for them to develop a social action campaign of things that were important to them. So the workshops ran at each youth centre one after the other, and as the project went along, we gained more insight into what was required in order to make that happen. Now what became really apparent was that the young people were really engaged both within the workshops and also with the museum collections themselves, and also they did really have clear views around what were important to them. But it took quite a lot of work in order for them to realise that actually their voice was really important in order for them to be able to feel confident to develop a social action campaign for themselves. So that developed the concept behind finding their voice. So one of the artists came up with the idea of the young people developing banners as a concept for them to display things that were important to them. So they developed creative banners which displayed messages of things that were, some which were inspired by the collection, and some which had messages around things which were topics of importance to them today. It was decided to showcase those at the museum, and initially the idea was that would be on show just for a weekend. However, due to firstly the quality of the work they produced, but secondly the public reaction, we extended that for a number of weeks, which was fantastic. And then during those weeks, the reaction that we got from the public was absolutely fantastic. And we were also able to showcase the project and then the work that we'd done during that time as well, which was absolutely fantastic. So in terms of the learnings from the project overall, we engaged with a total of 73 young people overall, in terms of them attending at least one workshop, and 21 young people more regularly. In terms of the feedback overall, it gave the young people involved certainly more confidence in what they were doing, and it certainly enabled them to visit the museum, and the feedback from the youth centres was that many of them would have never come to the D-Day Museum if they hadn't been involved in the project, which was fantastic. It opened up many conversations for them around key topics, things that were important to them, which might not have happened if they'd not been involved in it. And it was a fantastic example of collaborative working between the museum service and the youth service, which is an opportunity to build on for the future. And finally, it gave the museum service great insight into how to engage with young audiences, which is a key objective for when the museum was redeveloped back in 2018, and something which we can build on into next year with the 80th anniversary. And then finally, I'd just like to mention Catherine Webber and Claire Hall, who were the two key people that delivered the project, because without their hard work, it wouldn't have delivered the success that it has done. So, yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Ross. It really was a good project. Mary, any comments?
This is one of the best projects I've ever seen, and I've worked in community development for 30 years. Really impressive. I think it's important to note that there'll always be reluctance with young people. Building trust is essential. It's a basic community development principle. And you did it really well. And I think learning from these things is fantastic. The exhibition was brilliant, and the young people were so proud of themselves, and I was so proud of them too. It was just all round great example. Thank you very much.
Well said. John?
Just following on from that, just more collaboration, I think, would be the thing I would say, to continue the good work.
Russell?
Yeah, good work from the team.
Cool. Ross, thanks very much for presenting. It was a really good project, and as you say, a great launch pad into D-Day 80 for next year.
Thank you.
So thank you very much for being here today. Item 8 on the agenda is Ready, Set, Read, the 2023 Summer Reading Challenge Update. Dave.
Thank you, Leader. So arguably, poor literacy may be the single biggest contributing factor to societal inequality, and the Summer Reading Challenge is an annual scheme, a reading scheme for primary school aged children, which is to promote reading for pleasure and raise literacy attainment. It's the largest such scheme in the country. Over 700,000 children participated last year, and Portsmouth has been delivering this for well over 20 years. It's a huge project for libraries, we consider which materials we're ordering in January every year. They arrive in May. We're planning outreach activity with the outreach team you were introduced to earlier in schools in June and July. The activity itself takes place during the summer holidays, and the winners event takes place in September or October. So it's a huge piece of work for libraries, incredibly busy time where over 36,000 items are delivered, are issued to children over the summer holidays, so they make up a huge percentage of our books issued to children. Our aspiration is to get over 2,000 children completing the reading challenge. We had just over 1,500 this year, which was an 8% increase on last year. There's also an online offer, so the children can choose their reading targets online, but that's still relatively small engagement. That's less than 10% of the overall participation, so 90% of our children in Portsmouth are attending libraries, and over 3,000 signed up to take part. The winners event at Southsea Castle, which is delivered in partnership with the museum service, was hugely well attended. Over 3,500 children and families attended on the 24th of September. And all through our libraries, they deliver dozens and dozens of activities, overwhelmingly free activities over the summer holidays, which are very welcomed by our local families. We had probably 50 events in total running from libraries, attended by 5,000 adults and children over the summer holidays. It's a great volunteering opportunity as well for older children. We had 35 volunteers aged between 12 and 21 that delivered about over 450 hours of volunteering over the summer holidays. It's a great opportunity to build CVs and employability skills and work towards any further education applications. We also broaden participation by offering Summer Reading Challenge Plus, which is a unique initiative that Portsmouth do, where we targeted 90 disadvantaged pupils from schools in the north of the city. So these are from Beacon View Primary, Highbury Primary, Portsdown Primary and St Paul's. And these children were invited to engage with libraries in the run-up to the summer holidays and take part in the Summer Reading Challenge, which removes that barrier of lack of parental engagement over the summer. So these are children that can then be issued with a certificate and a medal before their peers in school assemblies and be rewarded for their achievement. So I think that sums up this year's work. As I said, over 3,000 children signed up to take part, and about half as many completed, which is a very sort of typical statistic for us. But it's a significant piece of library work, and one which we're really passionate about and have a desire to just increase every year.
Thanks, Dave. I'm really sorry that I wasn't able to join the event for the Southsea Castle Day this year. As you know, I always try to be there. But this year I was in Halifax representing the council with our twin city, but I made sure I went to a library. And they had a very good one too. I'm massively passionate about this project, and we do have that longer term aspiration to make sure that we try and achieve 2,000 completers, and we're going to have a look and see if there's any information that might tell us why some of those people are dropping out along the way. I guess it's probably the lack of parental support over the summer holidays. It's probably a challenge to for a lot of young people. But it's a wonderful event, and it's still one of my favourite memories as a councillor, trying to get a winner's medal to stay on a rocket which didn't have any shoulders. So he had to walk out holding it either side of himself, which was very funny. I've got a picture of that at home, which always makes me smile. So thanks very much. Members, any comments?
Brilliant project. I was just wondering, from the 8th of July to the 16th of September, there was 36,000 children's books issued. Is that up or down from usual? You haven't said whether it's an improvement on last year?
That will be slightly up on last year because participation levels were higher this year.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
I thought that was a really impressive amount, actually. and everything's going up by the looks of it. I think it's really good that you have an online option, because it's, even though, and I think it's really good that it's a small amount actually as well, but that it's there, it's important that it's there. Yeah, great project, well done.
John?
Sorry, Chair. I can only say I've heard the passion in the room before, and the key focus that we've put on it as a city, and that's good. And reading is so important for the young people and set them up for life. So spot on, really, from me. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Russell.
Yes, I think the reading challenge, and I think we mentioned this last year as well, and it does seem to be growing. I'm hoping actually from the data here, 2022, it has grown. That was probably going to be a question actually more than a comment, but I believe it has. So yeah, it's very important that we pursue this further.
Thank you very much. Thanks, Dave. Thanks for being here today to update us, and we look forward to Summer Reading Challenge 2024 and finding out what the theme's going to be this time. Thanks very much. Item 9 on the agenda is the Visitor Economy Update from Jane Singh.
Hi everyone. This is an information-only report covering tourism and marketing activity undertaken by the team between March and September this year. It covers domestic marketing, a focus on digital marketing, press and PR support, our partnership working, international marketing, and our visitor information service and other improvements. I'll just run through some of the highlights. In March, we launched our Portsmouth the Place to Be in 23 campaign during English Tourism Week with the leader. At the Mary Rose, our 2023 publications, which are fully funded by the advertising within them, were already in circulation, and we ran our first outdoor campaign in London Waterloo around the Underground and the entrance to the Underground, and supported that with a digital campaign. The digital posters achieved over 1.1 million plays, and the in-house digital campaign that we ran alongside 1.2 million impressions. Full details and some nice imagery of what it looks like in situ are available in Appendix 1. In June and July, then we launched our big main season campaign with our partners. So again, South Western Railway, the Historic Dockyard, Gunwharf Quays, Spinnaker Tower, Victoria's Festival, and the D-Day Story. We used a new location at Waterloo for these, the large advertisement boards near the departure boards, and digital posters across platforms. The digital posters generated over 4.76 million impressions, and the in-house digital campaign that we again ran alongside 2.6 million impressions with a really good click-through rate. It's quite important with South Western Railway are a key partner in these, and it's quite important to continue that. We really want to try and encourage sustainable travel, even though we recognise there is a challenge around the strikes on the railways, but still we are trying to encourage more people to travel to the city sustainably. Again, full details and some nice images in the report at Appendix 2. During this period, we've had over 411,000 users to the website, 958,000 page views, and 1.85 reach on Facebook. Press and PR activities, so Tourism South East, as part of a service level agreement we have with them, put out pictures to press for us, and we get some good results from that. We also attend events and produce film for events like Victorious and the Formula Kite European Championships, so we can promote the city, all the big things that are happening here, so that the rest of the city don't miss out. We also provide a range of copy for print and online, and although we're a very small team, we really recognise the value of press and PR activity, so if we get a last-minute opportunity, we always jump on it. As I mentioned, tiny team, not massive budget, so partnership working is really key to everything we do and maximises the benefit of what we can do to promote the city. This year with local partners, we launched a new pilot membership scheme, which has been well received, and it's enabled us to plan better and know exactly what we can do throughout the year, and we'll look to continue that next year. Regionally and nationally, we have partners with Tourism South East, South Western Railway, as I've mentioned, England's Coast, Visit England, Visit Britain, a whole range. We also support the meetings, incentives, conferences and events market for our city venues. We recently hosted a familiarisation visit for event bookers, which include a dinner at the Guildhall. And we promote through events, and we have a VIP section on Visit Portsmouth, venues in Portsmouth. Internationally, our focus at the current time is on North America and Europe. We see those markets as being the first to really come back, and we're starting to see some results from that now. We're definitely seeing more international visitors in the city, which is great to see. Almost all activity, again, is in partnership with regional partners this time, promoting the kind of South Coast area. And we will attend marketing events, sign up to larger campaigns run by Tourism South East, Visit Britain. And we also will attend some ourselves. So Explore GB, which is Visit Britain's major international marketing event. We have back-to-back meetings with tour operators and travel agents all over the world. We work closely, obviously, with our international port, and we support their growing cruise offer there and how we can encourage more people to stay in the city and make the most of it, not just zoom off to London or Stonehenge. We operate the Visitor Information Service down at the Hard and at some points across the city. And we have a little hut at Victorious again to try and get people to come back and do something different. You know, if they've come to the city just for the festival, to come again and visit the other things. And we run regular, so we really want to support our partners. We have regular destination network meetings where we inform them of what we're doing, give them the chance to network. We've seen really good partnerships come out of that. And we've recently done some work with the Safer Streets funding, refreshed the Millennium Promenade and produced new guides. That's it.
Thanks very much, Jane. It never ceases to amaze me just how much you actually achieve with you and David. But I know the partnerships are really key as well. And I was with Dom Jones at the Mary Rose recently, and he was singing your praises for what you managed to do and how great the partnership is. And long may that continue. Members, any questions?
No questions, just well done. That's brilliant. I don't know how you do so much with so little.
Yeah, mine was the same, really. It was just a comment, really. I mean, they do fantastic work with a small team. And as I said at the prelims meeting, you know, this is an area where if there was some spare money, I would invest it. I know it's very, very difficult with marketing and all those things that the team do, just the two of them. It's difficult to get a return on investment with marketing. Sometimes you don't get it. But, you know, the way that they promote the city far and wide, the outreach, you know, North America now and everything else, it's amazing where you see it in London, you know, when you're travelling and that sort of thing. The way they've promoted the city and got it, the enhancement it's done to us as a city, I think is great. And anything that can be done to assist that small team, I think should be done. Thank you.
Thanks, John. Russell?
I was going to say quality over quantity, isn't it? It seems of this team here. I think it's really important, you know, this type of marketing and seeing it. You know, the more you see it, the better it is. And I think consistency is always a key part. And I think, you know, seeing some of the images here as well of the underground, etc., etc. And I have personally seen it on trains as well. And I think people are, you know, I know there was that thing in the news about us being like the second most popular, but also the second worst or something, some lovely combination. But I think overall, you know, especially when you think about Gunwharf, I think it's the third most popular outlet now, and you know that's gone up and up over the time, and that's competing with like, you know, Blue Water and Bicester Village. So you know that's not small names, and these are like shopping centres in very, very nice areas as well. So I think it's really good that we are pushing it out, and hopefully we will do more, and hopefully they will get more support later on with more team, etc.
Thanks, members. And wearing another hat, I'm a trustee of the Portsmouth Naval Base Property Trust, and we always look keenly at the ALVA figures, which is Association Leading Visitor Attractions, and Portsmouth is punching well above its weight in there. We are outperforming some really key internationally famous London venues, which is fantastic to see, and there's definitely a spirit of optimism amongst the sector in the city, and it supports over 10,000 jobs. You know, that's not to be sniffed at. I was actually talking to a business-to-business networking event yesterday, and the naval base is hugely important to the economy of the city and employs around about 10,000 people. So yes, high-skilled jobs, etc., really important, but the visitor economy is right up there as well in terms of the number of jobs that it supports in Portsmouth, giving people careers and opportunities that are absolutely crucial, and it's a sector that we need to see grow because that is the future. So it's brilliant that we are doing very well, and it's in no small part thanks to the work of Jane and David, so thank you very much, and to all the partners who work so closely with the council to achieve what we do. Thank you. And final item on the agenda today is item 10, and that's the Bransbury Park Leisure Centre update from David Moorman, please.
Good morning. The Bransby Park Leisure Centre project is actively progressing and it has been throughout been dealing with the ongoing effects of high construction industry inflation. Like many other similar projects, leisure projects across the country, we've been dealing with that inflation in one of two ways, or in fact of two ways. One, value engineering, and two, adjusting the scope of the project. For this project, value engineering, or at least the visual effects of it, will result in a more off-the-shelf solutions rather than bespoke design and a more utilitarian finish. Whilst we're trying hard to preserve the main customer-facing product, that's the two pools, the gym. And so a lot of the value engineering is happening in plant rooms, underground and on the roof. The project scope will broadly remain the same, so two pools, and a dry leisure facility support and complement the pools, and a GP surgery. But the two-court hall, which has been in scope since the start, is regarded by most stakeholders, and that, by which I mean BH Live, Sport England, Badminton England, as suboptimal. So a forecourt hall is preferred, and in fact Sport England regard that as a minimum, but the site at Bransby cannot accommodate a forecourt sports hall. The increasing likelihood that an existing forecourt hall, which is at a city centre school, will become newly available for community use has meant that we've been able to re-evaluate our scope. And it may be that the removal of the two-court hall from the Bransby Park Leisure Centre is the right thing to do for this project. And so, consequently, the design team has been revising designs for a centre without that two-court hall, and this has had the effect of regrettably moving the target for planning application from October this year to February next year. Officers are engaging in dialogue with the school with the aim of securing community access to its facilities, including that forecourt hall, and I will report back to this committee on the outcome of those discussions. Thank you.
Thanks, David. Just for a bit of recap for when all this started, we were looking at having to find a solution for the failing infrastructure of Wimbledon Park Sports Centre, and we were trying to find a replacement for the old Eastney pool, and we were looking to combine the two of them into one building as far as we could, and that enabled us we were therefore looking at two-court sports hall in the leisure centre at Bransby Park. Wimbledon Park is still open at the moment, but we know it's not got a long-term future without a massive amount of investment. And also, as part of this process, we were about a year or so ago looking at knocking down the existing community facilities and moving those into the leisure centre, which when I came back as cabinet member I thought was bonkers, so I stopped it because that's not what the community centre wanted either. So anyway, we are where we are. But that does mean there is a one-court sports hall in the existing community facilities. So there won't be not be a sports hall in this location. It's already there and able to be used. And this has been developing in slow time in the background, the conversations about having a community use agreement, as we already do with, for example, Charter Academy. So if we can do that, then we will have replaced like for like pretty much the offer that's at Wimbledon Park Sports Centre, and therefore the usage imperative of incorporating additional sports hall into the leisure centre kind of evaporates, and we are not in a position as a council to be delivering, unfortunately, facilities that we can't make a case for, a usage case for. Putting that in there pushes the envelope. Costs are rising. We need to make sure that we are staying within our budget, and this enables us to do that. And it's also important to note that when we talk about value engineering, we don't mean doing it on the cheap. We mean leaving out stuff that's not actually making the building usable. Architects have an amazing propensity to include all sorts of stuff that they like and products that they're fond of and that they've previously used. We are not in that world. This is about delivering a neighbourhood community leisure centre so that kids can learn to swim and older people can stay fit and healthy. That's the purpose of it. But it has to be economically viable, therefore it needs a gym in order to bring in the income to make sure it's not a drain on the council's resources, and that's always been the focus from the beginning. Sports hall, nice to have, but not going to happen. The GP surgery, we are still pursuing. We're still in partnership with the working in partnership with the NHS on that, and the hope is that we can therefore deliver those elements of this, which will still give us a really positive outcome. So I've no doubt, as a result of today, that people will be critical of the fact that we're removing the sports hall facilities, but I would point to the fact that we are able to do a like-for-like replacement for Wimbledon Park and retain a sports hall at Bransbury, and in the current climate, that ain't bad. Members, any questions? Mary?
I think we've got to do what we've got to do with the costs and the budget that we have.
I completely agree. John?
3.34, I completely agree with sweating the assets much more, the community agreements, and I know there's lots of work going on in the city about that with other, so I think that's great, and I've said that before, so anything to do, we've got some great assets, and I think we're getting open to more and more people. Fantastic, so well done to the officers and that teams that are doing that work. Can I just ask, maybe it's not allowed to ask yet, or you won't, but where are these 4 courts going to be?
We can't tell you yet because the school hasn't given us permission to, but it will be central to the city, I guess. It's not a million miles away from here, but I can't tell you any more than that.
No,
but we expect to be able to tell you more than that very soon.
Because my next question would be, is if it's not very near to Bransbury Park, then having a 2-court would be more sensible than having no courts nearby, giving that. I mean, we're talking about value engineering is not leaving out, but we are leaving out, you've just said that the sports hall is not happening, so we are leaving something out. You've just said value engineering, we're not leaving anything out, but sports hall is not happening, so we are leaving something out.
I did say value engineering is not about doing it on the cheap.
And you did say not leaving out, because I wrote it down as you said it.
Okay, well, to be really clear, we are leaving out the sports hall.
Yeah, okay, so value engineering is leaving things out.
In that definition, yes.
Yeah, okay.
But it's not the same thing.
It's not the same thing.
The value engineering is about making sure that that the scope of the project in terms of the finishes, ceilings, all that sort of stuff is done at the most cost-effective level in order to bring the overall project into the cost envelope. We have made the decision that if we are able to pursue this community use agreement with the school, which we think we are, we will have achieved what the project scope was originally about, which was compensating for the closure of Wimbledon Park Sports Centre, and therefore the business case for keeping it in at Bransbury disappears, and with the pressure of the cost envelope, that's a welcome solution to making sure that we can still deliver the core activity the project was set out to do, which was not about the sports hall in terms of its replacement for Eastney Pool. That was directly linked into Wimbledon Park Sports Centre, and that is being replaced by the school option.
I would still debate that until we know where the location of these 4 courts is, it's not really giving the residents in the south of the city or in that part of the area which has been put out in release, as it were, press release, whatever, that won't be giving them, I mean, having a couple of courts would be better than nothing if it's not in the location.
I understand.
Because we don't understand where it is yet, and you're not able to tell us that.
I understand that, John, but what I'm saying is that Wimbledon Park Sports Centre is open. It is not closed. The facility's not gone. We would not make the decision to close Wimbledon Park unless we get the school agreement. And if we don't get the school agreement, we'll have to revisit whether or not we can look at to include 2 courts at Bransbury. What I'm saying is, if the community agreement comes online, the business case for including it in Bransbury disappears, and therefore we would look to the school to be the replacement for Wimbledon Park. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Cool. Russell, anything? No. Okay, thanks for the update, David. We expect to have more details soon, particularly on the community use agreement with the school, and then all will become clear, and we can see that we've ticked the boxes that we set out to tick. One of the things that's worth noting is that, as David referenced, neither BH Live or Sport England regard the inclusion of the 2-court sports hall as key to the business case. They never did. That was our desire to replace the courts that were at Wimbledon Park Sports Centre.
And that's what we've published to the residents and everything else in the area. So, we'll see that will need to be reworked as well.
I'm sure it will. And then you have to make difficult decisions when you're on a council. Thank you very much, members. Cheers.